How's it going, guys? Welcome back to TheBlueShifting and welcome back to the Vampire Masquerade Coteries of New York. Last time was a while ago because I got sick. So we did one episode and then we had a break. So forgive me if I'm going to be a little stumbly bumbly here, but we're going to be jumping right back into the swing of things and getting this done. Last time we were awakened without the proper protocol. We were spared because we worked with Sophie, who is making some kind of deal with us, and we are now taken under her wing, her responsibility, and she has the right to kill us on a whim if we disobey her. Puts us in a real bad bind. We don't have much going for us, frankly, and we won't have any leverage, so if she asks us to do something very, very dangerous now, it won't have much backlash for her. And considering how much intrigue there's going to be in this game, yeah, it's going to be a rough one. But we're going to jump into it anyway. We're going to go forward and just do our best to claim our new life. Hopefully without taking too many people down with us. Well, within reason. Because now we are creatures of the night. We are, we've been sired. Oh, what do they call themselves? It's not a vampire. They call themselves something else. I don't know. We will see. But let's just jump right into it. I don't think there's much else to say other than the fact that, like, we've been turned and been spared. So, Sophie. Where did we leave off? I believe I started telling you a bit more about our customs. You heard about the prince refer to our traditions. The chief among them is the Masquerade. As you might have gathered from us assembling in a niche gallery in the closing time, our comings, goings, and doings tend to be somewhat secretive. We do not advertise our existence. We allow myths and modern fiction to morph and muddle the facts, so to the vast majority of kind, we remain bedtime stories and pop culture icons. Yeah, so kind is like food. Oh, a term for mortals, logically contemptuous, the phrase kindred and kind refer to the world at large, everything. So kindred is what we are. Say, there's that one television show about a vampire angel still popular? If it's referring to Angel the Vampire, that show was never that popular. I loved that show though. I've always been a pretty big fan of Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and I thought the spin-off Angel had a lot of good stuff. I think the final season was a huge disappointment because the funding ran out, unfortunately, but I also think the writing was going a bit screwy. But the first two seasons are so good. Season 3 gets a little wonky, and then season 4. Oh, season 4 was rough. But then Buffy was pretty much solid through the whole time. Like, there's some give and take on seasons and differing opinions, but I think Buffy stayed pretty relevant and pretty awesome all the way to the final season. God, I need to watch those shows again. Ooh. I guess I have such little free time. I get caught up in anime lately. I haven't watched it, but maybe I'll start rewatching some of that now. Anyway. Continue. Oh, you shake your head in confusion. She shrugs and continues talking, looking a little bit more dejected than before. Our clandestine ways help us remain safe, allow us to explain away the occasional trip-up or the rational minds of the 21st century humans, and dictate much of our interactions with mortals. Is there anything the movies get right? That actually is a very valid question. There has to be some stuff in the books or movies got right. Or is it just all vampire there has to be some stuff that the books and movies got right, or is it all just vampire propaganda? There's a kernel of truth in every myth. Those concerning Kindred are no exception. There are mortals who sift through and manage to separate the facts, though it doesn't happen thanks to Hollywood. For one, sunlight burns us. That's why we rest during the day. You felt it. More like being dead than being dormant, isn't it? But we have no choice. We are night dwellers, but day sleepers. Some more folk-related threats are just legends, or occasionally a minor nuisance. Garlic, running water, even religious symbols don't repel us, unless the wielder is uniquely pure and godly. Okay, that's something I didn't know in this universe. I am a bigger fan of the Dresden Files, where, like, holy symbols work because faith is a kind of magic. It's just a kind that is very pure, like she was saying. Garlic, It does not drive vampires away. However, vampires do have a strong sense of smell, and they use that to track prey. Having garlic spread around a house is a potent smell that does work because it prevents them from tracking you, but it doesn't drive them off. It just makes it easier for you to hide. And then running water, only some vampires is that a problem for. Well, kind of. I think you can drown a vampire running water because it erodes magic. But again, I think that's more for black court vampires than the red and white courts, which are a bit more... They're more related to fae and thus kind of like independent creatures. The black courts are like almost mystical vampire beings. Anyway, I highly advise you read the Dresden Files, especially because it's got 2 books coming out this year. So excited! Stakes to the heart, though, that's something to avoid. They do not destroy, but they do paralyze, which, under the right circumstances, can often be the same thing. There's a reason to have somebody like me, my trusted driver, Gregory, making sure you're safe when you drift away. We have many enemies, and they often know their advantage lies within daylight. Let's see. So it's vampires versus humans? The answer is going to be no. We're often more dangerous to each other than humans are. It sounds like it's vampires versus humans, right? Masters and slaves? Only nobody knows vampires exist, so it's ruling from behind the scenes? Something like that. We've stayed in humanity's shadow for as long as civilization has existed. Any time the Kindred felt too secure, too complacent, we suffered great losses. So we need to keep the kind, even those close to us, under strict control, or forfeit them in favor of other kindred. Our sect offers some safety and camaraderie, but often not enough. Sect. A group of vampires arguably united under a common philosophy. The 2 most widely known sects currently populating the night are the Camarilla and the Anarch movement. Interesting. So we picked the one that was not very... Oh, I guess we kind of were, right? Yeah, I guess we're in a subverse of the Camarilla, I think. Long-term solidarity does occur in the Camarilla, but we are a very politicized organization by necessity. Loyalty is to your own sire, to your prince, and to the sect. Friends must remain a distant priority at best for us to maintain the masquerade and thrive as the years pass. With age comes authority. With it comes influence and power, if you wish to reach for them. She seems to be lost in thought and falls silent for a while, leaving you to ponder all the things you've learned tonight. It still feels absolutely unreal, but as piece of knowledge falls into place, the image becomes almost like an entirely logical jigsaw puzzle. Wherever you wouldn't believe on your own, you've witnessed. Many questions swarm your thoughts, but the one you keep returning to is where your place in this new reality should be. The car stops, and you're in the city, in front of an old but well-renovated apartment building. We're here. Would you like to see your lodgings? My own apartment? Neat. I got my own apartment. That's neat. Consider it the first of many gifts I'm able to grant in exchange for loyalty. Come upstairs. She leads you through a small hall with a night guard who greets Miss Langley with a good evening, and you take the stairs up to the 2nd floor. Sophie opens the door to room 209. Inside are all the amenities you could expect from a modern apartment, and some you wouldn't have deemed necessary. Just the previous night, including thick blinds on the windows. Yeah, those will be important. As a matter of fact, I would have probably gone and tried to tint the windows if that's possible, but maybe that's too suspicious. The back room has a comfortable-looking bed and a thick steel door with several sturdy-looking locks, but no windows. Well, how do you like it? Not bad. Could use some redecorating. Yeah, it's not bad. I'd change a few things, switch a picture or two, maybe paint the wall a different color. I'm sure you would, but I would appreciate it if you would hold back the need to redecorate, or at least consult me before you do. Why? The time for solo acts will come later. Right now, what we need is collaborations. Tomorrow, I will take you hunting and discuss the blood in more detail. I'll let you get comfortable. The keys are by the television set. I'll come pick you up tomorrow night. Use the back room for rest. You can lock the doors, just in case. It stings a bit when she leaves. It's like the room suddenly became a few shades dimmer. You inspect the kitchen, hoping to find something to drink. Nothing. No food, regular food either. Feels strange that Quadir could be a more thoughtful host than your new sire, even if only in that respect. You briefly wonder if the sheriff might have a hidden side. Kinda, but I also think she's going to be... I doubt she's going to be pleasant, and I think she's going to push us for independence. Like, she doesn't want to babying us the whole time, so I'm guessing her first few trials are going to be to break us out of our shell, teach us how to move about on our own, give us a task, and then send us off and hope that we don't die. Or at least we hope we don't die. She probably won't care either way. With nothing left to do, you lie on the couch with the TV playing in the background for company. Columbo returns. Kojak reruns. President of the United States got himself into serious trouble again. Tell me about it. President of the United States got himself out of trouble again. Pundits start yelling over each other about things that seemed a little bit less insignificant just 2 days ago. You start drifting off, reflecting about another night of confusing conversations and worldview-shattering revelations. How many more before you finally understand what happened to you and what you're supposed to do now? You keep coming back to life you left behind, the people you should contact, the things you want to pick up from your apartment. You wonder when you'll have the chance for either. As you start to feel the same tiredness that made you drift into cold sleep last night, you settle into the back room. The bed is comforting, the lack of windows less so. You leave the light bulb on. Looking at it, you realize that the closest you'll ever come to staring at the sun on a breezy summer day again. That actually would kind of suck to have to give up. A wave of melancholy overwhelms you. Ugh. A few minutes later, your consciousness fades and you take the plunge into darkness again. Sinking, 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 sinking. Seems horrible. Oh, I like how the roads are like, they look like veins and like they actually have the blood flow kind of feel to them. That's cool. Interesting. This is the map we'll probably be working with. Hunger is at the heart of a vampire's existence. To ignore it is to tempt the beast to take over its desire to feed. To overindulge in feeding may threaten the masquerade while staining what humanity you have left. In the courtiers of New York, having high hunger is indicated by a progressively thicker blood frame around the screen, like the one you see now. So, wait. Bloody frame around... Oh, so like the blood marks kind of like appearing along the sides. As your hunger grows, so does the indicator. Your hunger may increase when you call upon the vampiric powers or when you need to mend your wounds after a fight. When your hunger reaches the maximum level, you will receive a warning after you complete a piece of the story, ignoring it at your own peril. Some choices might only become visible if your hunger is high enough. Similarly, high hunger might block off some choices, as you'll be able to see after pressing continue. Interesting. Okay. So there are options. There could be reasons to have your hunger be a little heavier. But I'm guessing that's going to be the less diplomatic route, and that's really not my normal cup of tea if I'm making choices. I tend to be very diplomatic, just in general. I'm good at that. I love that stuff. So don't count on my hunger going up too high, especially because I'm freaking paranoid. I'm almost curious to see how, like, where the warning point really is, but it sounds like it'll tell us, like it'll be like, hey, heads up, you better go feed or you're gonna really regret it. See, that's a blocked off option, then continue. So that symbol just means it's blocked off or I need high hunger to use it. To decrease your hunger, you'll need a feed. Whenever you see a feeding opportunity, you can take the risk to hunt and stake your hunger. Feeding opportunity. Oh, okay, yeah, so the fangs are the feeding opportunity. You'll need to keep the hunger at bay if you are to uphold the masquerade and survive the nights that await you. Fascinating. You open your eyes. The bed isn't warm. The room is filled with artificial light from the ceiling. The solid metal door is closed. Normally you'd stretch for a bit, but on some mornings you'd probably throw the quilt over yourself and snooze a moment longer. That was before. The way you woke up now, you feel fully conscious. No grogginess, nothing weighing you down, just a nagging need in the back of your head. Hunger. Not as severe as last time, but unmistakably there. You get up and open the door to the main room. A digital clock on the TV shows your time, 9:04 p.m. You walk over to the blinds and retract them cautiously. The only light coming in is New York City's artificial nighttime luminescence. It's kind of handy because it seems like you can't accidentally expose yourself to the sun. I wonder if there's a way you can like keep yourself from falling asleep during the day, or if it's just like a boom, you will just fall unconscious. Because that does make things risky. So that's what your waking hours are going to look like now. You miss the sunlight already. You're seriously considering just walking out the apartment and figuring that's all out by yourself, but then you come back to the memory of Quadir's exotic sword being raised in the gallery. Maybe sticking around isn't that bad of an idea after all. Your need jumping channels for around half an hour, then switch to streaming services. Almost as if the universe had a sense of irony, you catch True Blood in the flood of recommendations. The doorbell rings. It's Sophie. Good evening, Protag. Slept well? Like a dead man. Curious wording, but not that far from the truth, I suppose. No use dwelling on it. I think you'll agree with time. You made the right choice yesterday. I could teach you many things about yourself, your blood, its desires, and its power. We will begin tonight. You are hungry, yes? I'm sure you are. Our kind always is. There's only one remedy, the blood. The drinks we had yesterday at Elysium are not the usual way you stake your thirst. So tonight, I will assist you in your first foray into hunting. You will need to learn to sense the kind of blood you desire, to understand how you can use the kind's vulnerability to your advantage. Predator and prey, huh? I guess I'm ready to learn. Well, I'm ready to learn. Let's get started. Such eagerness, or is it just your hunger making you impatient? Yeah, I see the blood, so... You will find that drinking moderate amounts of it regularly will keep the hunger and the whispers of the beast away. You might think of yourself monstrous, but there's a balance to be found here. The kiss gives the kind pleasure. You might remember this from your own embrace. Some can even become addicted to the sensation, but if you do it right, they tend to misremember your feeding. After all, vampires do not exist. They are myths, fairy tales, and pop culture mainstays, correct? She gives you a sly, knowing smile. That is why the masquerade is so important, and even more crucial when you feed. I think the biggest one would be, how do you avoid being seen? How do you avoid being seen while feeding? You isolate your prey, or choose the right circumstances. People tend to avert their gaze when they see a couple intertwined in public. Love bites are easy to explain away. Some of us keep willing herds, or even just individual kind who desire the kiss. That comes at a higher risk these nights, though, so I would not recommend it to the young kindred like yourself. Feeding from the same area repeatedly can be dangerous, but by branching out, you risk of iring the other kindred on whose domains you trespass. Luckily for you, New York City is far more forgiving in this regard. New York is in somewhat a unique position. Many of its neighborhoods remain contested or unclaimed. The reason for this is a lesson for another time, but keep the following in mind. Take opportunities to feed when they present themselves, these upcoming nights, and as long as you hunt cautiously and respect the masquerade at all times, you should be fine. New York City would be interesting. A high population center would mean that it would attract a lot of vampires. You know, I mean, the idea being there's lots of food here. At the same time, that means that there's still probably a much higher, prey per square mile in New York. And it seems as if the vampire organization isn't super massive here. So I can see why it almost feels like a lawless area where you're not really going to be stepping on people's toes when you can find 1,000 people every square mile or so. If not more. I don't know what the square mileage population is in New York City. I've heard it once, but I can't remember what it was. To wit, I want you to join me for a trip tonight. Come downstairs. Gregory is waiting for us. The busy streets fill the air with traffic, noise, pedestrian chatter, and a mix of smells that disorient you momentarily. These warm bodies contain what you want, what you need. You catch yourself. Did you really just think of these people as mere sources of blood? It takes a nudge from Sophie to break your train of thought. Her driver opens the door for her, then tips his hat to you and gestures to the back of the car. The car casually joins the somewhat thinned New York traffic. It's so busy in a way only the biggest cities in the world can be, but compared to daylight commute, it's a pleasant drive. You barely have the time to gather your thoughts and formulate new questions before the car comes to a stop. You're amongst the tall skyscrapers that make up Manhattan's iconic skyline. You feel a pang of emotions as you realize this is where you took part in the exhibition just 2 nights prior. Same address, and you suspect same hall. To what ends has this been repurposed tonight? Come, Protag. Park the car, Gregory, will you? The driver nods and Sophie gets out. You join her and the two of you walk through the glass doors together and take the elevator up. You first notice an empty stage with the instruments of a string quartet still in the back, then take in a few dozen chairs in front of it. The concert seems to have concluded. The patrons, all smartly dressed and posh, have spread out all over the hall. Sophie strides confidently inside, produces an invitation from her purse as she flashes in front of the security guard. You follow close and are let through without issue. Let's start easy. A social setting like this one would usually provide quite challenging for the inexperienced Kindred, but consider this evening a small gift from your patron. I'm hoping to procure for you a willing vessel. Just remember what I told you about taking small sips. This one I have a soft spot for. Don't damage her. Ooh. Fascinating. Now let's see here. Ah, there he is. She notices somebody in the crowd, flashes a heart-melting smile, and suddenly even you feel drawn to her. You haven't thought about it before, but it's laid clear before you that this is in this moment. Sophie is beautiful. Just looking at her is a privilege. Just being with her makes you feel elated. Everybody in the crowd, but especially the man who's almost tripping over himself to reach her, clearly agrees. Edgar, I'm so happy to see you. How is your daughter? Is she with you? Oh, there she is. Julie, my girl, come over, please. There's someone I'd like you to meet. The young woman who walks along the hall can't be more than 19 years old. It's clear from her mismatched earrings and the partially faded purple hair dye that she doesn't fit this crowd. Julie, this is Protag. I think the two of you should get acquainted while I talk business with your dad. Awfully boring stuff, I assure you. I'm positive you'll like each other. The girl gives you a shy smile and nods toward the balcony stairs. You follow, somewhat unsure what it is exactly Sophie expects you to do. Yeah, this is a little bit like tossing you in, like, what? Just go for it? I mean, if we let instinct take over, that seems like a bad idea. You think we'd get a little bit of inkling? Like, what, do the fangs pop out, or what? You reach a secluded space from which the entire lobby is visible. All eyes are on Sophie. They listen intently, then laugh when she does. Julie saves you the trouble on figuring out the next step. Oh, hello, you? If you're with Sophie, then I guess you're, you know? She puts her wrist to her lips and gives herself a theatrical nip, then looks at you embarrassed, but also hopeful. Don't know how I want to answer this. You're into that sort of thing? What, are you into this sort of thing? She blushes, looks down at the floor, nods. Could you, if you like, Miss Langley tells me She swallows hard, avoids your guys. That I taste nice. That's crazy. I'm sure most people would taste good, but I wonder if people actually taste differently, person to person. Well, okay. This seems wrong, but here's the thing. She's willing. We have to accept this. I'm accepting this. We're gonna go for it because A, this is the perfect opportunity. We need to learn how to do this if we're going to survive. We know we'll lose control if we don't. I'm not risking that. That's the worst case scenario in my opinion, is like losing control. So we're gonna drink. You take her forearm in your hands. A quick look around confirms nobody's watching. No security cameras cover the area. You bite down gently. It's surreal. She's just given you her blood for her own volition. How is this possible? What about the masquerade? You need to ask Sophie. Your thoughts disappear amid the bliss. There's just a taste. Sweet, fresh, sanguine. You drink. And drink. And drink. No, stop. You tear away from the girl harder than you wanted. Still, the bite leaves just tiny punctures, almost as if by an insect. You lick them clean, and the two holes become concealed, just like that. How did we know how to do that? Julie is now leaning on the wall, pale, wobbly on her feet, but happy. She lets out a dreamy sigh, opens her eyes. A few tears fall into her shirt. Tears of joy. Very handy that it's so addictive, but I think that's the whole point. Like, it wouldn't work if it was so forceful. Like, it just would not be able to something you could really hide. Whoa. Like, just think about this as creepy, though. Like, what if this were real? Like, oh boy. Thank you. Please, can you walk me downstairs? Please, my dad, he doesn't know. Thinks it's a condition. Miss Langley told him so. She leans on you. Her request you walk over to her bench. She takes a seat and smiles at you. I would be a terrible candidate for any vampires out there. I'd be terrible. I tend to be, especially now that I've, like, slimmed down. FYI, if you're new to the series and you didn't know, if you go look at my older stuff, I was much heavier a while ago. I've been working really hard the past couple of years to lose weight, and I've been very successful. Back then, perfectly good snack machine, I'm sure, for a vampire. But now that I'm a lot thinner, I've found that I am very naturally inclined to being anemic. It's just, I don't know exactly why. It's just kind of a thing. I take iron because I have to combat it. But like, I absolutely am naturally kind of in a more anemic side of things. I've talked to people about it, and doctors, and as long as I'm taking extra iron, like, it seems like everything's perfectly fine. And I suppose the next step is trying to figure out a way to eat food that gives me high iron without needing the supplement, but the supplement is a really good way of maintaining health. Don't worry about my health, I'm fine. I'm making sure I'm doing everything right and everything, but like, yeah. I imagine you start drinking my blood, I would pass out real quick. That is a very weird thing to say, and I wonder if anyone ever heard that randomly. What would you think? The crowd around Sophie disperses slowly. Looking at her now, only some residual awe hangs in the air. Yes, she's pretty, maybe even beautiful, sure, but not your type. What came over you before? You walk over to her. Edgar, dear. It was splendid talking to you, but we need to get going. Give Julie my best wishes. Come with me, Protag. Gregory is waiting for you out front. It's only the car that Sophie addresses you. I can tell from your look that you took the opportunity. Good for you. That girl's exquisite, don't you think? You wouldn't tell by her demeanor, but she has so much passion. It brings out a unique bouquet in her blood. A bouquet, or I don't know, that's another French term, I don't know. So yeah, I guess like the manner and the type of person, and I'm guessing like their health too, has an effect on how they would taste. Makes sense, actually. I feel like I took advantage of her. I really do. This feels all wrong. I feel like I violated her, like I took advantage of her. Oh please, spare me your dramatics. I'm sure she was happy sharing herself. She's such a sheltered girl. Let her have fun from time to time. Time for the next stop. Training wheels off this time, Gregory. Flushing Meadows, please. The driver takes the car over Williamsburg Bridge. You settle your thoughts. What did you do to the people back there? That's what I would really want to know. Those people back at the hall. They were all entranced. Even I was under your spell. What was that? She smiles with satisfaction. That old trick? Just the blood doing my bidding. We all have our talents. Some of them come from the legacy we inherit from our sire. Others can be learned with experience. I can sway people and make them fear me. I see more of the world in greater detail than some kindred. I can will my body to move with unparalleled precision and grace, and more. All of these skills make me who I am. They also help me hunt. How do I use my powers? How exactly do I use these talents? You will the blood to do your bidding. Many times you'll find you do these things intuitively, almost passively. But making an entire room focus their attention on you, that is tempting the beast. Always keep the masquerade in mind, however. It is all fine if you can disappear in plain sight or command animals with your mind, but save those overt talents for the right place and time. So she's talking about literally turning invisible there, wasn't she? Interesting. I wonder what powers I have. It only takes you half an hour to reach the park at this time of night. Both you and Sophie leave the car, with Gregory left behind again to find a parking spot and keep an eye on the car. Sophie seems deep in thought. She takes the surroundings with a dreamy gaze. The sky is surprisingly clear tonight. The stars just barely visible in the light polluted area of the city. I feel like having a snack myself. I'll be by the fountain. Go look for somebody to your liking. See what effects you can achieve with your blood, but only pick one victim. Just one, then come back. Seeing as how she seems not altogether here right now, you decide to leave Sophie to her own devices and seek out your prey. From here, it looks like you have a few choices. Just taking a stroll around the park and finding an isolated jogger or someone like them could work, but focusing in on one area might work better. The New York State Pavilion might work as a secluded spot. There's a skate park nearby, or worst case scenario, there's bound to be some unfortunate wino around. Or maybe the tennis courts nearby? There's light coming from there, so somebody might still be playing a late night match. They won't be alone, but they might be tired and let their guard down. As these scenarios play out in your mind, you realize you're planning how to assault a stranger in the middle of the night. It's a weird way to be, but now a familiar hunger prompts you to act. The decrepit pavilion? Doesn't sound appealing. Tennis court sounds nice. Take a walk but don't feed. No. I'm gonna go for the tennis courts because, alright. I'm gonna say, this is gonna make me sound really weird, but I'm gonna assume that my flavor for people I'm gonna assume that my flavor for kine, if I were a vampire, would be very associated with my current tastes in like people who I would find attractive or interesting or intriguing. And so out of the choices, I have to say I immediately was caught with the attention of looking by the tennis courts. I think people who are active, I'm sure they taste good. What am I saying? These are gonna be the worst misquotes ever. Oh man, do not like cut that out of context. You decide the tennis courts are good places as any, and make your way to the bright glow of the lamps illuminating the area. As you guessed, the pair of players, 2 men, fit but older, maybe pushing 60, are finishing up a match. They're the only ones there. It's time to make a move. So presents, I can lure away or barge into the showers. It sounds more... I'd rather, like, lure somebody away to practice it. But barging in the shower sounds kind of fun. I want to try that one. You wait for the right moment to strike. The 2 men garb into their things and hit the showers. You sneak behind them. As they each take their separate cabin, you quickly open one of them and lunge blindly. The white-haired, bearded man doesn't even have a chance to react as your fangs sink into him. The scalding hot water keeps flowing onto both of you, but you're preoccupied with his hot blood. The flow's fast and feels energizing to you. You never expected an invigorating taste like this from a guy who's at least your father's age. You get the feeling that his tennis buddy will soon realize something's wrong, so you get out of there fast, letting the naked man fall to the floor of the shower cabin. Soaked but sated, you emerge from the showers and leave the courts. As you're about to walk back to Sophie, a figure emerges from the shadows and stops you in your tracks. A hooded man is looking menacingly at you. What do you think you're doing, barging in my turf like this, lick? That sounds like somebody who understands what I am. Like, what kind of a slur is that? Or I didn't mean to trespass, I'm gone. That's probably what I would truly say. I didn't mean to trespass, sorry. I'm going. Too late for that, friendo. You want to leave here in one piece, you talk. Candidly, I know what you are, so you can shove that masquerade misdirection up your butt. Now, better tell me who you're with before my posse shows up and we beat it out of you. I'm with the Camarilla. Chill out, I'm with the Camarilla. He does anything but chill out. He immediately tenses up, giving you an extremely nasty look, and bares his fangs. You're with the ivory tower blunts, huh? Well, tonight's my lucky night. I'm gonna F you up and bring you to the Callahan. He'll have some fun breaking your shins, and maybe, by the end of it, I'll get to have a nice long sip. Wonder what you taste like there, Lick. What is this guy? He does his best impression of Hannibal Lecter, and a nice shanty stick, but that's not as intimidating as he thinks. Celerity. I'm guessing that's turning invisible. Call for help, attack him, or use my power. I want to use a power. You take off, faster than you've ever run. The hoodlum has trouble keeping up, but howls behind you like an animal and gives chase anyway. As you reach the Unisphere again, you slow down, noticing 2 people near the sculpture, a man and a woman tangled in a passionate embrace. No, not exactly. It's Sophie, feeding. But this whole scene is set up so it looks like a couple getting intimate in public. She pulls it off like she's done it 100 times before. She probably has done it thousands of times before. I imagine 100 feedings in a year is probably not even like close to the real number. It occurs to you that she probably has. The man is unsure on his feet and lets go as she lets go of him and leans him toward a nearby bench. Noticing you, she whispers something into his ear and leaves him. Her driver appears from behind a tree. Well, Protag, how did it go? You're about to answer when the same figure as before emerges from one of the alleys. He looks up at the 3 of you, and as a predatory smile creeps onto his lips. You thought you could run away from me, Lick? And you'll be safe with your friends? Well, I have friends, too. He makes a motion to shout, but 2 things happen almost at the same time. First, that feeling of warmth and beauty emanating from Sophie flares up again, entrancing both of you and the hooded thug. His shout comes out as a weak, confused squeak. Second, Gregory produces a wooden stake from a holster under his jacket and slams it into the thug's chest. Fetch! He's quick on the draw. Just like that, in a few seconds, the posturing vampire is down on the ground, paralyzed. I see you've made a friend, Protag. Curious choice of company, I would say. Who is he? He mentioned a Callahan. He said something about presenting me to somebody named Callahan. Ever heard of him? She looks shocked for a split second, then recovers her regular countenance. Yes, I have. This hoodlum is Anarch, then. Curious. Corona Park has not been claimed by any kindred last I checked. Let's go to the car. We'll put him in the trunk and present him to, Quadir tomorrow night. I'm sure he'll be delighted to make this unbound's acquaintance. Gregory carries a staked vampire and dumps him in the car's trunk like a mannequin. He's a strange sight, and you're quite happy you're not in that poor effer's shoes right now. It's almost surprising you can get away with it, just casually throwing a stiff into your car and driving away. It's a fair point, but then you remember that Sophie has been doing this far longer than you have. Still, the nagging thought that anything you did tonight could have been recorded on a CCTV camera or picked up by a rando with a half-decent smartphone or streamed online fills you with dread. I think, did I pass up some stuff? So the Anarchy movement, a vampire sect that opposes the tyranny of elders and has placed itself outside the society of the Camarilla. Okay, so I think that the three characters we could pick, I think the top one, I think you were a member of the Anarch movement. And then the other two are probably the Camarilla. I'm glad I picked someone who's in the Camarilla because I like intrigue, not throwing things under the bus. Okay. Back we go. Hunting and using your abilities is a dangerous business. It's clear that this whole being a vampire thing is about as many caveats as it has perks. You're taken out of your headspace by Sophie's voice. I'll pick you up tomorrow night, same as tonight. I have some business to attend to at Elysium and I expect you to accompany me. Plus, our friend in the back needs to be properly introduced to Quadir and the Prince. I'm sure he'll have some interesting things to say to the court. Okay, court is a social system of city kindred, resembling the feudal system of mortals. At the top is the prince, below them members of the Morgan Council. Order in the domain is maintained by a sheriff. The gatherings are organized in secret sanctuaries known as Elysiums. So Elysium just means where we gather. Her voice is cold, cruel, and nothing like the enchanting personality she showed at the gallery earlier tonight. Sophie is clearly a woman of many faces. I don't know. I wouldn't do the same thing as him. Good riddance. That guy's an a-hole. Oh yeah, I can imagine he's going to enjoy meeting Quadir. I hope he gives him a good grilling. That guy's an a-hole. Oh, Quadir will enjoy it too, I'm sure. She pauses, seemingly lost in thought for a while. You haven't told me how your hunting went. Getting the hang of it, I would hope. I think so, yeah. I think I am, yeah. I'll cope. I'm glad. She doesn't question you further. She seems distracted, not all there. Her thoughts drift, and the car remains silent until you reach your apartment. We will pick you up tomorrow evening. Good night. Just like that, without any further courtesy, Sophie leaves, driven in to her apartment by Gregory, with a body in the trunk, right in the middle of Manhattan. Did you cross paths with situations like this in the past unknowingly? Probably. What other secrets did you pass on the streets without knowing their true nature? Your haven is just as you left it hours ago. Although the sun won't come up for some time, you feel tired. You learned something about yourself today, and it takes time to process. So haven, the vampire's home or base, where they find sanctuary from the sun. I mean, pretty straightforward, right? You're not in the mood for television, and the few books on the shelves in the apartment are either in languages you don't speak or sound like a boring read. Nothing left to do but rest. You settle in the back room, lock the doors. A moment of hesitation, but then a decision. This time you turn the light off. You think back to Julie. How many people in the city know about the Vampiric Society? How many willing accomplices to sustain it? And the thug you met in the park. If he's not Camarilla, then what is he? Are there independent vampires? How does that work? More questions. You begin wondering if there's ever going to be a night where you can start crossing them off the list instead of adding to it. You close your eyes. You sink into the now familiar void of nothingness. And it greets you with open arms, like an old friend. Alright. So I'm guessing this map will show more as we go, but for now it just seems like it's a map. Oh, that sound. You open your eyes. It's pitch dark here, the blackness of a coffin drifting in the abyss. Oh, right, the light. You grasp for the switch, flip it, and the familiar cramped room with a steel door and no windows comes to view. You emerge from the bedroom fully awake, just like yesterday. This time, however, Sophie is waiting for you, comfortably seated on the sofa in your living space. A book in her hand, The Melancholy of Resistance, the title sure on brand. Good evening, Protag. How did you get inside? How did you get inside the apartment? After a long and spirited battle, I managed to defeat the lock. She produces a keychain with a faceted emerald at the end and jingles it in the air with a wry smile. It's my apartment, remember? Come, we have an appointment. I received word Elysium would be called again tonight on account of your unruly friend from Corona Park. This should be a great opportunity for you to mingle. She keeps talking to you as you walk downstairs and get into the car. Gregory gives you a slight nod and a small smile while opening the door for Sophie. He starts the car when you take your seat in the back. Most of the Primorgan Council is bound to be there, at least those who usually attend. Probably some other important personalities you'd do well to at least learn about. Alright, the Primorgan Council. The Primorgan Council represents the interests of the local kindred and advises the prince on matters of law and rule. Traditionally, it consists of representatives from each of the most prominent clans or factions in the domain, naturally favoring those of the Camarilla, though outsiders are allowed to report any issues to the Primorgan, if not of their own clan. Primorgan are often elders, but despite the term Primorgan is Latin, which means the firstborn, there are no rules in place that this is how it must be. In fact, during the last few decades, more and more councils have seen drastic changes to their structure. Gotta keep the pipes, set up. It's getting a little hard to talk. How should I carry myself when inside? You never told me there's any savoir-vivre kind of rules I should respect when talking to other vampires. Knowing that you're among your superiors is probably the most important. In our society, status comes with age. Pardon my sincerity, but you are insignificant. Not even associating with me can make the fact that you've been kindred for barely a few nights be forgotten. So know your place, stay out of your superior's business, and show the utmost respect. Thanking the prince for sparing you, and maybe having a friendly chat with a Quadir publicly might show your gratefulness for being a part of the Camarilla now. I would suggest you make it sincere. At any rate, you should behave yourself tonight. Remember what I told you about reflecting on me as your patron. I have your reputation to uphold in the court. Do not tarnish it. There it is. She might have saved you. She might be protecting and teaching you, but it's clear what she clearly is concerned about. Her own interests. Of course. I don't think he's realized this yet, but if she shows weakness of any kind, she could be killed just for, I don't know, her claims, her people, out of a grudge. You step into the art hall with something of a bad memory. The last time you were here, your entire world had been turned upside down, your existence had nearly ended. But tonight there's little outward hostility. Yes, Quadir gives you that look that's definitely intended to remind you of your place, but the prince, also in attendance, seems pleased to see you. Welcome, Sophie, Protag. Did I get that right? Good evening to both of you. I understand there's somebody else you wish to present to the court tonight? Yes, Prince. They will be joining us shortly. My assistant is retrieving them presently. This better be worth the prince's time, Langley. The prince gives Quadir a cold glance. Forgive the sheriff's harshness. He's in a particularly foul mood tonight. Something to do with Protag's begetter in eluding his grasp, I believe. Ouch, that must have hurt his ego, even if only a reply is a quick smile. The mention of your sire makes you feel a pang of emotions again. Whoever he was, he left a lasting impression, one reinforced with your visit to the show space last night. That's the past. Right now, though, you're back in the galley and are reminded of your sister again. Instead, Emma frequents this place. Is she aware of these clandestine meetings after dark? What if she's like one of those addicted ones? The flaring up of whispers in the gallery hall breaks you out of your thoughts. Gregory enters the room, the jumpsuit-clad inert vampire still staked on his shoulder. The show's about to start. Sophie's driver places his charge in the middle of the room and nods respectfully to Quadir. The sheriff approaches the vampire and removes the stake from his chest. The captive's eyes flicker to life, and he starts looking around in disbelief. Like a cornered animal, he backs out of all fours, keeps going in circles until he realizes he's trapped. Quadir steps on the man's chest and pins him to the floor. Why, who do we have here? Oh crap, no, come on, no, don't! Silence. The sheriff takes on an aura of utter dread. He appears as if he's a primal force of nature that's out to get you, and there's absolutely nothing that can do but shrivel in terror. The beast inside you shrieks, and you could swear it happens in unison with the instincts of some of the other guests here tonight. It's not like anything you've experienced in his company during your turbulent first nights as a vampire. He really did go easy on you, all things considered. Seems like it takes all of the hoodlum's willpower not to crawl into the fetal position and start crying. No, please, don't hurt me, man, don't! You and me are going to have a little talk downstairs at the prince's discretion. Please, go ahead, my sheriff. You heard the prince? Get up, let's go. He doesn't wait for a confirmation, he just grabs the man and drags him, kicking and screaming out of the room. Conversations start all around you, some whispered, some quite overt. Sophie looks somewhat bored of the whole affair. Her eyes wander from art piece to art piece, clearly finding nothing to her particular liking. What happens now? So, what happens now? It'll be at least some minutes before Quadir gets the information he seeks out of this thug. Why not mingle while we wait for him to break? Excuse me? Well, Sophie leaves your side and goes to the corner of the galley where the group of kindred, some seemingly pretty old-fashioned, gather. A consurgence offers you I have no idea what that word is. A server offers you a drink, still warm. It smells nice. Just as a sip to start you off, a splash over your palate, coating your tongue and the inside of your cheeks. Nourishment. You're left to your own devices. You have a quick look around. The prince is currently talking to a dark-skinned woman that you recall seeing here those few nights ago. She has a cold but notable countenance to her. The conversation seems to be casual. A loud, shrill laugh turns your attention to the bespectacled man you saw with Sophie on the night of your judgment. He's making the rounds, chatting it up with different patrons. You feel somebody's eyes on you. A casually dressed, plain-looking man stands alone near a column, watching you. He turns his gaze away sheepishly when he realizes you've noticed. I want to go talk to the prince because she recommended I go to thank her, and I'd agree. I want to go up and kind of offer her conversation. Maybe I can chat up somebody else at the same time. You approach the prince, trying to stay as respectful of her private conversation as possible. She glances at you as you step forward, her scrutinizing gaze mimicked by her companion. She addresses the dark-skinned woman before turning to you. Excuse me for just a moment, Samira. Yes, Protag? What is it? I wanted to give you my thanks. I wish to thank you for sparing me, Prince. I realized it wasn't an easy decision to make, and I wanted to express my sincere appreciation. How thoughtful of you. She takes a long look at you before she continues. I didn't do it from the kindness of my unbeating heart. You are an asset to Miss Langley, to the Camarilla, and to me. I believe I made the right decision. Prove to me and the other kindred of this city that it was so, and there might be more to your future nights than just survival and servitude. The dark-skinned woman looks impatiently at you and catches the prince's attention. Forgive me, that is all the time I can spare now. We have some things to discuss with Samira still. Enjoy your night, Protag. I think I'd be more respectful. Same to you, Prince Penhard. And the same with you, Prince Penhard. The prince nods and turns back to the other woman, continue the conversation. You notice Sophie mingling with other kindred. You clearly in her element and not to be disturbed. Quadir hasn't come back yet, so you can probably still find some time for at least one conversation. I'd like to talk to the person who's looking at me, because they seem interested. That means there could be a spark of conversation. Man with glasses might be flippant to us. There's something about this guy. It's not that he's staring at you. Most everyone in the room has, at one point or another. It's how he does it. He seems shy, maybe even afraid. It's hard to find the secluded spot in the galley tonight, but this guy has an entire corner of the room all to himself. As you approach, he's standing alone with no glass in hand, a worried look on his face. Good evening, Mr. Larson. Or you can call me Robert. Either's fine. I wish I could do, like accents. So, who are you? So who are you? You mean like generally? A vampire, same as you, though I might not quite look it. I'm one of the Prince Panhard's, Primogen. I'm here on business. In case the prince requires my insight. Usually it's so she can hear me out before ignoring me. Not sure if you were paying attention the other night, but when the prince mentioned diverging opinions on whether you should be executed or not, that was me. I was the diverging opinion. Oh, wow. And what was, I guess, like, being open thank you sounds nice. What was your reasoning? Not that I'm ungrateful, but out of curiosity, what was your reasoning? My reasoning? Just common sense, that you shouldn't be blamed for being assaulted and essentially murdered to boot. But as Quadir loves to say, the traditions are clear. Listen, I don't want to be rude, but I appreciate you reaching out, but word of advice? Stay away from me. Many vampires in this sect regard my position as Primogen to be some kind of a joke, you know? You talk to me, they'll notice, and they'll hold it against you. You have a quick look behind you and see that a few of the kindred keep shooting you curious glances. One woman in particular, redhead boasting a fanciful hairstyle, watches you disapprovingly. Some of them already do, I imagine. Excuse me, I need to try and get a word in with a few Primogen members before Quadir returns. Enjoy your night. With just the critical looks of a few kindred to keep you company, you start thinking about who to pursue next. A loud exchange near the staircase grabs everyone's attention. Quadir is back, and the hoodlum is with him. The sheriff pushes his unfortunate victim inside the room. The vampire that threatened you last night is a mess. That stupid hat of his inexplicably on his head, covering some of his ruined face with a welcome shadow. He's barely conscious. Dang, how much must you punch a vampire to make them nearly fall unconscious? His shin is broken, you think, or something's protruding there that makes the pant leg bulge. One arm seems twisted at a strange angle. Very little blood, surprisingly, but clearly a whole lot of hurt. Fetch.
Well, Quadir, did our guest cooperate?
Tell the prince your name. It's Howard. And who did you run with, Howard?
Midnighters.
An anarch courtier, my prince. Active for some time now, though from what those ones told me, the name is about only the legacy the group has kept over the years. The courtier, a small group of kindred, united by the need for support and sometimes common interests.
I see.
Hey, Prince, I didn't mean it. I didn't know. I didn't... A loud crack makes some of the guests out of a gasp as Quadir slap dislocates the man's jaw. A spray of blood creates something like an abstract art piece on the floor. This one is guilty of threatening a member of the Camarilla and claiming the domain without the prince's approval. That alone would be enough to pass swift judgment. But he is also anarch scum. My prince.
There can only be one verdict. Final death. Do your duty, Sheriff.
Final death when a vampire ceases to exist, crossing the line from undeath into true death.
Unless, of course, somebody would like to play at being a good Samaritan like our dear Miss Langley a few nights ago.
The look the prince serves you and Sophie is a cruel jest. Sophie takes it gracefully, smiling and slipping her arm under yours in a strange public show of affection. Nobody says anything. The vampire named Howard jumps to his feet and makes for the window. I'd like to try... Well... I kind of would like to, show some power. But I feel like that's, is that overt? I'm gonna go for it. In a split second, you make your choice. Focusing your blood, you dash forward, grab Howard by the back of his jumpsuit, pulling him away from the window. You expect some resistance, but find you don't have to worry about it when a swift cut separates Howard's head from his body. You let go, and the headless corpse slumps to the ground. Quadir is standing between you and the window, his sword drawn, an ugly smile on his face.
Well, Protag, your eagerness is laudable, if unnecessary. That Howard fellow couldn't have hoped to escape his fate, not facing Quadir's expertise. However, I have made note of the show of loyalty on both you and your patron's accounts.
Yes! Playing the role right!
I would like to thank Miss Langley for bringing this anarch thug to my and Cordar's attention. Quadir's attention. I assume all have found the verdict satisfactory.
It's a rhetorical question, and everybody here knows it.
Then I consider tonight's meeting concluded. Good night to all of you.
She steps out of the room, and you see that many of the guests move to do the same. Sophie seems to be conversing with somebody, a serious-looking man in a trench coat, about what transpired. So far, I'm approving of our power set. It's super speed. I don't know if that's just all of them are going to get that or not, but I like it. You probably have the time to strike up a conversation of your own, too. Quadir Asmai is still here, for one, but clearly getting ready to leave. Larson is still moping around, and the other man you noticed before Quadir brought in the Anarch is still chatting with the remaining attendees. I would like to talk to Quadir before he leaves. The sheriff's mood seems to have improved, so you decide you won't get a better shot at saying your piece. He's just sheathing his sword as you approach him. He notices you just before his face turns from a melancholy frown back to his regular predatory smirk. You seem to have caught him in a moment of reflection. What is it, Protag? I wanted to thank you. Honestly, it is impressive work. Is everything alright? Sure, it's probing, but honestly, I want to thank him mostly. Because he did show us kindness. He did help us understand how serious the situation was and keep us from making any major mistakes. He didn't do it out of favor, but I still think that I want to thank him for it. I wanted to thank you for bringing me here in one piece, or giving me a chance. An emotion creeps onto Quadir's face that you haven't seen in the sheriff exhibit yet. Is that gratitude? It's fleeting, only there for a moment, gone in the blink of an eye. It was trying on my nerves, and you are still far and away from proving that it was the right thing to do. So don't think that a few kind words will let you off the hook. Still, I have to admit, I was as surprised as the prince when you jumped at the opportunity to stop that anarch from escaping. I was sure Valerie would have beat you to it. If there's nothing else, I'll be taking my leave. Can you tell me something about Sophie? Because she's not likely to tell us herself. I was wondering if you could tell me something about Sophie. She talks a lot about the Camarilla and other things, but I barely know anything about her. Oh, I can tell you something about Sophie. Some things she wouldn't want you to hear, like the fact that she's manipulative and vindictive, but then again, which of us Kindred aren't? You want to know more about Sophie's past, ask her. She's unlikely to tell you the truth, though. I'm quite sure she's never told me, despite our previous history. That's what we do, fledgling. We exist for centuries and we lie. To our families, our friends, our lovers, to our kindred, sires, and childer, to ourselves. He picks up the sword and turns towards the stairs. Good night. And watch yourself. You've messed up by my batting average, so I'll be sure to keep a close eye on you. With that final threat, he leaves the gallery. It's right about when Sophie also ends her conversation and walks over to you.
Interesting evening, wasn't it? Come, Gregory's waiting downstairs.
She seems preoccupied with something and not in a talkative mood. It's an awkward ride back to the city. This time you arrive at another building, just 2 streets across from your apartment. She brings you upstairs, though, a very nice lobby and a luxurious-looking hall, into her domain. I don't think that's where we're going to stop for tonight. This has been a pretty exciting, eventful series, episode so far. Made some good choices, used our powers a little bit, understand how the blood works, and even does some proper feeding. And I think that it's just kind of a good place for us to stop and kind of understand. So the courtiers of New York means the various little subgroups of the vampires. So I'm curious to see how this is all going to play out. Again, I have to compliment this visual novel. The music's alright, but very obviously repetitive. And right now, whatever this is, I'm not a huge fan of. Sounds like footsteps. But the visuals are freaking awesome. I mean, look at that. It's like I get to sit here and look at this for like an hour. It's so pretty. It'd be really fun just to have it as a rotating background for like my computer backdrop or something. But anyway, yeah, so very interesting so far, and I'm really liking so far the choices. I don't know how impactful these choices seem to be yet, but I'm guessing as we go along they will start to have an influence, and that shows a lot of care that's put into the game like this. So I'm very excited to see where this all goes. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Another part yet again. I'm grateful to be able to have you here. Thanks for spending your time on the channel. We've been seeing some good growth recently, and I'm just honored to have each and every one of you here. Hopefully the series continues to catch your interest, and if you haven't already played through it yourself, you quickly will decide whether or not you want to. And regardless of what choices you make, I hope you continue to share it with me and share your thoughts about the choices I make and the things that happen. I'd be very curious to hear your opinions on some of this, especially a few of you pointed out that you were a Vampire the Masquerade fan. So again, I would love to hear your thoughts about this compared to your experiences with the game, or like the tabletop version, or the lore, or like the actual like the gameplay. And also, they just showed like they're doing online exhibitions for the various consoles and generations coming out, and they released a trailer, like a new trailer for Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2. Ooh, looks good. Looks real good so far. I'm real excited about that one. Don't think it's gonna be something I'll feature on the channel, but I'll definitely like share my thoughts on it if like this series hasn't wrapped up by the time it comes out, because you know I'll be playing it. But anyway, thank you guys so much for being here today. Thanks so much for joining me on the channel. As always, it's a pleasure having you here and having you just be able to share this experience with me. Until the next video watching me, I'll just see me in next. I'll see you there.